Before we begin today's video, we would like to remind everybody that next week Vinci Tree Academy will be on spring break. Lessons may or may not be updated, and some teachers will not be available through email next week. Thank you for your understanding. All right, hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you're excited because we are in week 3 at the very end of the week, day 5. And I have our first grade teacher, Miss Martell, here with me.
Hi.
And Miss Martell, today we have a student video. So we asked students to send in some videos a while ago, and we have one to play for you today, just to say hello to everybody and say how much they miss you. Actually, I don't know. We'll find out. So let's watch the student video.
Okay.
Hi, Miss Stubbs. Hi, friends. Hope you're washing your hands and having a good time. Stay safe and continue doing your work. And see you.
Hello, everyone. Here's Marshall and the baby, and she's hiccuping and she's waving. Hi.
Miss Frank, hi, Miss Rucy. Hi, classmates. It's me here. I just wanted to say I hope you guys are having a great time spending time with your family, staying indoors, and kind of staying away from friends. And I hope you guys are actually spending quality time with your family like I am. But I hope to see you guys.
Okay.
That was so sweet. That was nice.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
It was really good to hear from you guys. So continue sending in some student videos, and we'll play them after the announcements. And I think that'll be kind of fun. A good way for us to see each other. All right, Miss Martell, do you have a joke to share with us today?
Yes. What do you call a baseball bat that you could wear on your head?
I don't know. What do you call a baseball bat that you could wear on your head?
A bat hat.
That's cute. Okay. Is that?
It's a rhyme.
Yeah, that works. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get ready for the pledge. Miss Martell, tell us what to do.
All right, stand up straight, put your right hand over your heart, and let's get ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Hey, well, Miss Martell, thank you so much for leading our pledge and jump today. Well, kids, let's get started on our last day of online learning for week 3. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, it's going. Okay. Hey, everybody. Mr. Roll here. It is week 3, day 5. You should have seen it in the announcements, but today is the last day before Vinci Tree's pre-scheduled spring break. For those of you who don't know, Vinci Tree runs on a 200-day calendar, so we go a month longer than other schools, so our spring break is later on in the year. And so it just so happens that for those of you who are doing online classes, you get your spring break now, which is kind of nice because everybody else at all the other schools are going to be stuck doing work for this next week. And this is a good time for you to catch up if you haven't done everything like you're supposed to, or just sit back and relax. You know, it just kind of hit me today as I was preparing for the lesson that Arizona's governor, Doug Ducey, he shut down our schools until the end of the year, like he should. I mean, he should do that because COVID-19 is serious. But it just hit me that I'm never going to see some of you 8th graders again. I'm never going to get to go on another wash walk with you. Never going to get to see you all sitting on Julio on the couch again. It's, I don't know. It's a little bit upsetting, to be honest with you. So throughout the lesson today, like any normal adult, I'm going to be eating through my feelings as we go through this. But anyway, for all my 8th graders out there, I'm really going to miss you. And, in our life skills class, I'm always telling you that the time we have together is precious and we never know how much time we're going to have. The last life skills class we had together on that Friday so many weeks ago now, that was the last time I ever get to be your teacher. And I did not know at that time, and you didn't know either. Um, but life is like that. Life is precious, and so you gotta take hold of every moment and enjoy it, because it might be the last moment you'll get to enjoy that particular thing or person. So yeah, just a fleeting thought as we begin our day. So anyway, today is like I said, it's week 3, day 5, the last day before our spring break. So we have our agenda for the day. We're keeping it super simple. So first we have social studies. We are going to be going over our current events, and we actually have current events homework today. Bum, bum, bum. The time has come. You have a worksheet to fill out. I'm picking today for this worksheet because if you have just been skipping through the current events portion of our lessons, you're kind of a little bit out of luck because you have to go back and rewatch them now. So the worksheet simply asks you to fill out some basic stuff, so it's not so bad. But again, you need to watch the videos to be able to know what the answers are. Then we have our U.S. history talk on Reconstruction. After that, we are still in Newton's 3 laws of motion for science. And then we have group 1 for math, which we are kind of summarizing all of the different area stuff that we've been learning. And group 2, and we're really hitting Khan Academy hard for group 2 on our solving systems of equations, making sure that you really have this down. So especially for those of you who are going to be doing this kind of stuff in high school, you need to know it. Okay. So that's the agenda for today. I decided that I was going to postpone literature until we get back from the break for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, the classical story that I wanted to read with you has, shall we say, some language in it. It's a really good book, but there are some turns of phrase that are a little bit outdated by today's standards. And so I am choosing a classical book that is maybe a little more broadly read, I should say. And in order for us to be able to do that, and for me to be able to make sure that I can be a decent teacher for you, I first have to reread it, because most of these books I have not read since I was your age. So I'll be spending my spring break choosing a new book for that. Where was I going? Oh, we need to start current events. Let's start current events. Okay, so for our current events for today, we've been talking about the economy, the size and shape of the economy, what the economy looks like, how big the economy is, how big the world economy is, what part America plays in that. So just today, we got some new unemployment numbers, okay? And to review, the unemployment rate in the United States is calculated by using all of the adult people who can work and want to work, but who are not able to find a job, okay? Now, something we didn't talk about earlier was that the way that the federal government calculates this rate is every state, so if you live in like California, or in our case, Arizona, when you lose your job, you have to report that to your state government. And so people in Arizona right now who've lost their job in the past couple of weeks, of which there have been many, have to call or go in person to the state unemployment office and file for unemployment. That way they'll get some benefits. They'll get the SNAP food program, so they can get some food and stuff like that, even though they're not making any money. And so what happens is every state in America, all 50 states and our territories in the District of Columbia, has their unemployment offices. And these unemployment offices collect the data, and then they send it in to Washington, D.C. and the federal government. And every month, the data is calculated week by week. And so we know for the month of March, in week 1, 2, 3, and 4, how many people filed for unemployment, right? Now, we have 2 problems right now with this. Problem number 1, okay, state unemployment offices depend on people walking into the office to file for unemployment, okay? If you or someone you know has just lost their job right now, we're in a pandemic, like lockdown, shelter in place situation. And so people can't go to their state unemployment offices right now. The only way that you can file for unemployment is over the phone or on the internet. And not every state lets you file for unemployment on the internet, so you have to file over the phone. Now, there have been these crazy news reports where people have literally called 500 or 600 times to the unemployment offices in their state, and they just keep on getting a busy signal. So we know for a fact that state unemployment offices have been overwhelmed, and that people who've lost their job can't even file for unemployment because the unemployment office doesn't have enough people to process the requests. And so it turns out this week we found out that the official figure for unemployment in the United States of America is at 10% right now. And so, with unemployment at or above 10%, by definitions used by myself and many other people, America is officially in a recession. Okay, and so that was a pretty big bombshell that dropped just today. And so you're watching this on Friday. This dropped today, which is Thursday, the 9th. Okay, and so that happened today. Um, and so another thing to remember with that is that a lot of people can't file because they've been trying and the offices have been overwhelmed. And so many economists and government officials are actually saying that they estimate the unemployment in America right now to be around 14%. Now, 14% is the highest it's ever been, I think, in my lifetime. And so Mr. Roll over here is about, what, I'm like 35 now, right? And so since the mid 1980s, this is the highest unemployment America has ever had, okay? And in fact, we might be even getting into territory where this is the highest unemployment that America has ever had since the Great Depression, okay? Some economists and people are saying that our unemployment rate in this country might get up past 20% before COVID-19 is over. Now, something to remember about this, though, because these numbers are scary. I will tell you that these numbers are frightening, okay? But the good news is that these people who are unemployed are not unemployed because we have fundamental problems in our country. These people are unemployed because there's a global pandemic. And so as soon as the global pandemic is over, most of these people can go back to work because they will no longer be sheltering in place. And so we may have 10 or 14 or even maybe higher than 20% unemployment, but it will probably only be for a few months. And once those months are over, those people can go back to work. And so that will have a very damaging effect to America's economy and the world economy, and it will have repercussions for some time to come. But it is not, again, the end of the world. We are going to be okay. And as I like to remind all of you who are watching this, you who are watching this are in 7th or 8th grade. It's going to be another good 4 or 5 or even 6 years before it's time for you to start getting a job and worrying about part or full-time employment. And so this is the perfect time for someone your age to have a recession, because this recession will be over and we will be in a recovery by the time it's time for you to look for work. So there are silver linings to every dark cloud. And again, we all knew this was going to come. Everybody knew that we were coming into a contraction. So it's good news for you. So anyway, even though it might be good news for you 5 or 6 years from now, it's still tough for the rest of us right now. It's still tough for your parents or your guardians who need to work and who are sheltering home. And we totally understand that. But again, always look at the brighter side, guys, and don't let the news get you down. So today, I want you to download that worksheet and get to work on it. I recorded the history video the other day, and so I'm going to play that for you in just a second here. But make sure that you start working on your current events homework, okay? The current events homework, if you can't finish it today, that's okay. You can go back and watch the videos later because, again, I'm probably not going to be updating the videos over the spring break. And if I am, it's going to be kind of infrequent. I'm just kind of banking them for the future, okay? All right, guys, thanks. Let's go to history. All right, ladies and gentlemen, U.S. history. Today we are on it is week 3, day number 5, and we are talking about U.S. history. Just a quick side note for my friends from college. I know I'm wearing my U of A hat. I know most of you who I met at ASU, and there's quite a rivalry between ASU and U of A. I like them both. I'm sorry. I went to ASU for my undergrad. My wife got her PhD from U of A. Again, I like them both, so don't email me, please. All right, so yesterday we discussed the Freedmen's Bureau. Was that right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, yesterday we discussed the KKK, the Freedmen's Bureau, and the 14th Amendment, okay? And so today we're going to be talking about the 15th Amendment first, okay? So as you recall, the 13th Amendment said no more slavery. The 14th Amendment said, hey, y'all, those former slaves, they be citizens, okay? They're citizens just like you and me. And so the people in the South, after the 13th Amendment, they jump back in the Union. They're like, all right, they're not slaves, but they're definitely not citizens. And then the 14th Amendment came and squashed that idea. It's like, no, they are citizens. And the people in the South are like, well, rats, they're citizens. But they weren't ready to give them equal rights at all. And so they're like, well, if they're citizens, we got to stop them from voting. Because if they're voting citizens, they could vote for each other. And the last thing we want is to have, okay, these are racist Southern people talking after the Civil War. The last thing we want is to have African Americans running the government. And so what the racist Southern people immediately did after that was they started making laws and other things to keep African American people from voting. After the Civil War, since we now knew that 1, they're not slaves, 2, they're citizens, they said, okay, we're going to keep them from voting, and that way we can just keep doing everything the way we always did before they were citizens that could vote. And so that's what they started doing in the South. They started putting up all kinds of barriers for African American people to vote. Sometimes the police would actually arrest African Americans when they tried to vote. Other times the KKK would come and do terrible violent things to people when they tried to vote. And so it was really bad. It was not good at all. And so at that point in time, the United States government passed the 15th Amendment. Now the 15th Amendment I think it passed in 1870 or something like that. The 15th Amendment said, hey, you can't keep citizens from voting. That's illegal, okay? If they're a citizen, they're registered to vote, you got to let them vote. And so there were actually American troops, like the American military had to be stationed in the South to make sure that the Freedmen's Bureau was doing well and to make sure that the 15th Amendment was being enforced and that Southern states were letting black people vote. And so, again, it's kind of weird to think that we would have to use our own military against our own people, but we did. And that was what the 15th Amendment was all about, okay? So remember, Abraham Lincoln pushed through the 13th Amendment, which also allowed for the 14th and 15th Amendments to all be kind of wrapped into one kind of amendment package for African American people and their rights. Okay, so it was on balance, the 13th, 14th, and 15th amendments are all great amendments. They did good stuff. Okay, and so that's 15th Amendment. Then, right after the 15th Amendment, we get into something that is not as great. Okay, and in fact, did I cover all the main parts of the 15th that I wanted to? Yeah, perfect. So, after the 15th Amendment, and around 1870-ish, I forget, it's around there, okay, we hit the Compromise of 1877, okay? So kids, whether you like it or not, if you're a Democrat or Republican or your family's Democrat or Republican, whatever, Republicans have a long and proud history of winning the presidency of this country but not having as many people vote for them as the other side, okay? So if we look back into George W. Bush's election, when was that? I want to say 2000, is that right? Yeah, it was 2000. It was the election of 2000. George W. Bush was going against Al Gore, and Al Gore got more votes than him, okay? We call it the popular vote. But the Electoral College went for George W. Bush. And so George W. Bush became president, even though he didn't get as many votes as Al Gore back in 2000. Okay? And he was a Republican, and it was a big deal when that happened because it was the first time in a while that happened, and people were like, oh, that's not fair, but it's the way we're set up. It's our democracy, right? Then in 2016, another Republican, our current president, Donald Trump, actually got, I think, 2 or 3 million fewer votes than his opponent, Hillary Clinton. But because he got the the Electoral College vote, he is the president and Hillary Clinton is not. Because in the United States of America, the way our Constitution does it is it's not the people voting for the president necessarily, it's the Electoral College that elects the president. And if you get more electoral votes than the other person, then you win and the other person loses. And so a lot of people are saying, oh, well, you know, these days, it's not a good thing that the Electoral College does this. But when people say things like, well, these days, what they don't understand is that it's always been this way. It's been this way for a very long time. And so in the presidential election of 1876, I want to say, when it was, I believe it was Democrat Tilden against Republican Hayes. So Tilden got quite a few more votes, like 250,000 or something like that, 250,000 more votes. The Democrat Tilden got more votes, and Hayes got fewer votes. But long story short, Hayes had more electoral college votes than Tilden. But it wasn't a very clean-cut race. It was so incredibly close that it had to be decided by a special panel of people. And so the Democrats strongest base was in the South, okay? And so the Democrats in the South were particularly upset that even though their guy got more votes, Hayes, who was a Republican, was the next president. And they didn't want that, obviously. They couldn't stand for that. And so the Compromise of 1877 was the way that the Republicans got Hayes to become the president peacefully, without conflict, and the Democrats got something that they wanted too. So the Republicans got the presidency, but the Democrats got rid of the military in the South, okay? So remember, the military had been sent to the South to make sure that these southern states were following the rules that were set up in the 15th Amendment that allowed African American people to vote, the rules that made it so that the Ku Klux Klan couldn't do whatever they wanted to African Americans, okay? These rules about the rights of African Americans were enforced by the Army. And the Democrats in the South did not like that one bit, okay? And so the Compromise of 1877 allowed the Republicans to get the presidency, but then it let the Democrats get rid of the military in their southern states. And so even though the Democrats were really excited and happy for this, it was bad news for African Americans, because African Americans would no longer have the protection that the military was providing for them to be able to do things like vote and be normal everyday people who don't have to worry about being harassed by the Klan, okay? And so the Compromise of 1877 had some really, really deep reverberations throughout the entire country. And so after the Compromise of 1877, we entered the time that's generally known as the Jim Crow South, okay? So these black codes were they kind of morphed into something called Jim Crow. It's a set of laws that put black people down. And this set of Jim Crow laws lasted all the way until the modern era for about 100 years, all the way until the 1960s, when Martin Luther King had to lead his peaceful protests and get rid of them, okay? And so Hayes is generally thought of as not a favorable president, okay, because he not only allowed this to happen, but he presided over the presidency, I think, for the next 2 terms, without protecting the African Americans' rights in the South. All right, and so tonight you're going to be going over the Khan Academy lessons for both of those that I just talked to you about. We are also going to talk about the failure of Reconstruction, okay? Because Lincoln was killed. Reconstruction didn't happen like it was supposed to happen. If Lincoln survived, we would have become a different country than what we actually became, because Lincoln was a great man. He was an honest man. He was a man that cared for all people and believed in the rights and integrity of all people, no matter the color of their skin or where they were born or how much money they had. He was unique. And because he was killed, Reconstruction largely failed. And so we're going to be talking about how Reconstruction failed, and what it didn't do that it was supposed to do. And then finally, we're going to talk about, we're going to do a fourth lesson on the Civil War and American identity. And so that's it for today. Week 4, day 1, we're actually going to be taking the unit test on Khan Academy over Reconstruction. All right, hope you learned something today. I hope you're paying attention. I hope I didn't offend too many people here when I talk about politics between Democrats and Republicans. I try to keep it kind of like objective bias, but I'm sure that we all have biases, and my own bias comes out. So if my bias was interjected in today's lesson at all, I do apologize. You can email me about that too. You know, I like to get feedback. So anyway, have fun with the homework today. You have 4 lessons in Khan Academy to work on, and I guess it's on to science. Is it live? I think we are. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for week 3, day 5 for science. So I wanted to start off today by making an announcement to all of you that you probably saw coming for a mile away. And those of you who didn't think about this or didn't know about it probably already expected it just to be this way. But as I guess you could expect, Catalina Island has canceled all of its camps throughout the end of the summer. So our camp date, which was supposed to be in May 20th, has officially been canceled. I was holding out hope because I knew I wouldn't be able to see you guys, you know, for most of the rest of the year. And kind of in the back of my mind, I thought, well, if Catalina Island and the area around Long Beach has some kind of miracle and they're spared, man, would it be fun to get back together. It's like getting the band back together and hanging out with you guys for a trip to Catalina, but not going to happen. Sorry, guys. So for those of you who have paid already, your trip will be applied for your trip next year. Okay, so if you've already, a lot of you have already paid some or all of the trip costs, your trip costs will just be applied to next year. So you're not losing anything. And we are working with the camp to get the school's deposit and everything settled as well. But I'm sure it's not going to be that big of a problem. But I got an email from the founders of Catalina Island, and they've been running the camp for over 40 years. And this is the very first time in over 40 years where they have to suspend all operations. And so it's just another reminder that, you know, things as they are today are not necessarily as they normally have been. So I wanted to take a minute and just kind of remember some fun times that we had. I just have a few. And so if you recall, on the way to Catalina, I took a lot of photos last time when we were there back in 2019. And when we got to the island and we went on our first snorkel, I very foolishly put my cell phone in my wetsuit because it was water resistant. And what I didn't realize was that my cell phone had a slightly cracked screen, and it let the water in and it broke it. So really the only photos I have are from the boat ride there. And so here we have 2 of our kiddos having a good time over there. I'm not going to use any names because this is on the internet. That'd be weird, right? Got some more kiddos here. Gotta love the hair blowing in the wind. And then my all-time favorite photo of hair blown in the wind of these guys here. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So anyway, just some memories. For all of you guys who are going to miss Catalina this year, I am too. And it's okay. We'll get them next year. We'll get over there next year. For you 8th graders, a lot of you 8th graders had the privilege I had the privilege of taking you last year. And so just remember the good times we had. It was a lot of fun. All right. So you have spring break coming up here right around the corner. And so for all of next week, you don't have to have any anxiety about watching videos with me in them because there won't be any new ones. So for spring break, guys, unfortunately, you do have spring break homework. Let's go over that together. So for science, for spring break, I've been saving this up like a homework squirrel. I have been saving all of this stuff for the time when you'd be on break. Okay, so for spring break here, you're going to be going over all of the Khan Academy lessons for Newton's laws of motion right over here. Okay, and so after you watch all the videos and take all the quizzes, we have a big summary quiz down here for 300 mastery points. So I want you to take that. And then we're going to be doing the next two sections. Now, all you have to do for these next two sections is just read and watch the videos. If you look here closely, there's no quizzes. Okay, and so for these two sections, normal force and contact force, and then balanced and unbalanced forces, all you got to do is read and watch. Now, Mr. Barbero can see when you've completed it, as long as you're logged in with the correct login. So make sure that you're logged in correctly so you can get the completion credit for those. Okay, so that's it for your homework for spring break. I hope you guys have a relaxing time with your families and hopefully not with friends unless you're FaceTiming them or playing like some games online with them or something like that. But again, I need you to do Newton's laws of motion here, the quiz, normal force and contact force, and then balanced and unbalanced forces. And we also included a link or multiple links in the notes for today's lesson about this so that you'll know what to do. Okay? All right, email me and Mr. Barbera if you have any questions. Other than that, good luck. This is just the same stuff we've been going over, but I wanted you to have some material stored up so you'd have something to watch over the week that you're not with me. Okay? All right, good deal. All right, let's get started. So, creaky chair. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are week 3, day 5 of mathematics right now. And in a moment, we'll start with group 1. First up, this is the end of today's lesson. We have a week off after this. I was a little bummed out that none of the older kids gave us any student messages. So if you would like to embarrass a friend on camera, maybe wish them happy birthday or just give them a shout out or something like that, please feel free to do so. Take a short video, maybe like 10 to 20 seconds at most. You can try emailing it to me, mroll@davincitree.academy. If that doesn't work, you can text the school cell phone. It's 520-441-0137. That might work a little bit better for videos, and we'll plug them into the announcements. So you can, again, call out a friend, have some fun. All right, first up, we're going to group number 1 here. So the links are on the website, but I want to show you kind of what I'm looking at here. So group 1, you have a good amount of spring break homework, okay? So the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you get this basic idea of being able to do irregular shapes. And we are actually taking y'all back to 3rd grade to do that. So in the 3rd grade, decompose figures to find area right here. I just need you to do the practices. You shouldn't have to listen to the 3rd grade lessons. Just do the practices, make sure that you can ace them, okay? Once you've aced those practices, here's what's due over the break, okay? All right, so under area and perimeter, you do not, I repeat, you do not have to do areas of a square, area of a rectangle, perimeter, quiz 1, or area of parallelograms or triangles. You do not have to do any of that, okay? I want you to start right here at area of trapezoids and composite figures, okay? Start there, and I want you to work through all of it and do each practice. So there's 4 lessons here, 3 practices, and then a quiz that goes over some previous knowledge as well, okay? That's the first part. The second part you have to do, area and circumference of circles. There's lots of lessons, lots of reading, and we have 4 practices there. You need to do all of them, okay? Then you need to take the quiz 3. And finally, group number 1, your test, your math test for this unit is going to be just out of Khan Academy. So like when we're in class, I always give you your unit tests at the beginning of the year, so you have all of them way ahead of time. You don't have that here, but what you do have is you have the ability to take and retake the tests as many times as you want, okay? At the end of the break on the Monday after we get back, Mr. Barbero is going to be checking to see what you were able to do. And again, you can take this test as many times as you want to get as good a grade as possible. Okay, so that's it for group 1. Group 1, you're doing pretty well there with that. Okay, if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Group 2, I want you doing this as well. Whew. Here's the thing, Group 2. A bunch of you are 8th graders, and so you're moving on to bigger and better things after this year. This information is really good for you to make sure that you're not embarrassed in high school geometry, okay? For those of you who are in my class next year, okay, this is foundational. You have to know these things as we move on. We definitely are trying to incorporate more things like coding and 3D printing next year, and basic geometry is really important for that, okay? So I need you to do this. So if you're in group 2, you need to be doing this as well. So group 2, you got your work cut out for you over the spring break. Again, it's really not so bad, a couple hours out of like hundreds of hours of downtime, okay? So put in the work, put in the I don't know, the 4 or 5 hours it takes to get all of this done. You should be good, okay? All right, that's it for math for group 1. Guys, I wish you guys a happy spring break and a restful one as well. Okay, so now we're on to math group number 2 here. Okay, so math group 2. I'm going to kind of bum you out right now, okay? Um, Before we do that, though, I want to remind you who you are, okay? Group 2, I know for those of you in Group 2 who are in 8th grade, like Tegan and Amber and Aiden and Julio, okay? Um, a couple of you guys, like Aiden, you and Amber, you're going to like Rincon UHS, okay? That's a tough school. Julio, Tegan, and Toby, you guys are meant for great things. Not that other people are not meant for great things, but you guys are meant for great things, and you guys are good at math. You need to keep on keeping on. You need to press forward. You need to keep on building your math skills as you go. Okay? For the rest of you who are going to be with me next year, you are in group 2 math. You are in the some of the more advanced math for kids your age, okay? And it is it's a privilege to be as advanced as you are when you're only in 6th and 7th grade, okay? And you got to take that privilege seriously, and so we need you to put in the work. A lot of you 6th and 7th graders that are in group 2, you're going to be taking the university high test next year, and you're going to be moving towards AP classes in just a few years. And so you guys, you got to take this stuff seriously. You got to take the algebra seriously. You got to put in the time. Okay. Your homework for tonight is simply to catch up with group 1. Okay. But your homework over the break is group 1's homework for break and this additional homework over solving systems of equations. I got a level with you. I anticipate that it will probably take about 10 hours, all said and done. Okay. I would spread it out over the break, maybe do 3 hours a day for 3 or 4 days and get it done. Okay. Don't try to do it all at once. You'll burn yourself out. Okay. So again, group 2, your homework over the break is all of group 1's homework plus what I'm about to go over with you. And it is important for you because, again, if you're doing advanced math in high school, my 8th graders who are moving on, or if you are my 6th or 7th graders who are in this class, we want you to be successful, okay? And, it's important that you really get down how to do systems of equations and that you don't forget your basic geometry that group 1 is going over at the same time, okay? You can't forget the easier stuff just because you like the more advanced stuff. And so anyway, I'll get off my soapbox and let's go over the actual work. So first up, this is just the introduction to systems of equations. I know a couple of you have been emailing Mr. Barbero saying that you're really struggling with it, okay? He is still working over the break, so you should be able to email him for some assistance over that break, but this set of lessons will probably help you if you're still struggling with the basic concept of systems of equations. I know several of you have it down pretty well, okay? But again, everybody has to go through this together so that you can refresh. And again, I think Sal Khan on here probably teaches it better than me, okay? Next up, we're doing substitution, okay? So first up, you have to do all the intro videos, readings, and practices. After that, you have to do substitution. And again, it looks like there's only two videos, one practice right there, and then one reading. Okay, so that's not too much. There's only 4 things there. over how to solve systems of equations with substitutions. Then we move on to elimination or combination, depending on, who you're talking to, okay? And then after that, we have number solutions over here, okay? And then finally, we get into word problems, actually being able to use systems of equations to solve real world problems and word problems. Again, systems of equations are really cool because you can help you figure out puzzles and figure real life problems and things like that. Okay, so group 2, you have these 5 sections to go over your break. And today's homework, again, for today, just focus on getting caught up. Yesterday, you kind of had a bunch of stuff piled on. Okay. I really want to spend the next week like with my family and whatnot because we have the new baby and stuff. Oh, I don't know if you guys noticed, but at the beginning of the video, that was Miles. He wanted to do a message because his friend was doing one, and he introduced the baby. But yeah, so I want to spend more time with my family and especially with my wife and the new baby. But it's not like I'm going anywhere. We're all stuck at home. So if you really are struggling with this, and Mr. Barbero, maybe he's struggling to help you, feel free to email me. I can help you out with this too, because again, some of this does get pretty complicated. Anyway, I wish you all health and, and I guess a good time. I don't, math for most of us isn't really like a hilariously fun time. But yeah, have a good spring break, and I'll be catching up with you guys in another week. If you just get bored and you're like, well, geez, I wonder what Mr. Roll's doing or whatever, or you have a hilarious picture that you took of yourself because maybe you're cutting your own hair. When I come back from the break, I might be bald because I might be shaving my head. Feel free to email me. That goes for everybody, group 1, group 2. If you're still watching this in group 1, send me some stuff. Keep me entertained, right? We're a community, and it's kind of fun to have stuff like that. All right, and send me some of those student messages, guys. Let's get some older people getting student messages in, if for no other reason than to embarrass our friends. Yeah, that's always a good one. All right, take care. I'll stop talking. Bye.